So this is a tutorial on how to sign in Zipforms. So I'm already in my transaction. As you can see, I'm on the summary page. The first thing I'm going to have you do is go to your parties section. So if you go to that parties tab, you want to make sure that you've done this. This is an important step to make the signing process easier for you, or the setup process. Make sure you have your clients listed in here. So if you're writing an offer, you can click on buy side and add a contact. If you scroll up and down here, select the one you want to add. So let's say it's buyer 2. And a pop-up screen will come up, and this is where you can add their information. So I'm going to X out of this, but you would select save, and then it will show up here under all parties. I also recommend, if you're drafting an offer, put in the listing agent's contact information as well. It's helpful to have that in there for when you send it to that person. If you choose to send it within Zipforms, it's just helpful to have all of them in there. Now I'm going to go to documents. Now there's 2 ways to get into this e-signature feature. If you're already in a document, you can select it up here at the top while you're in the document. Or when you're in this main folder, you can select eSign and you can access it this way. Now it brings me into kind of the e-signature folder. These are all of the ones that I've already created or had clients sign. This is just a test. Yours probably will not have any of these little envelope looking things because you've never had anyone sign yet. So you're going to select new. And then this is a list of all of the documents that I have in my folder. I'm going to select the documents that I want them to sign. And then you're just going to X out of it. Once you select that, check the box, it will actually just bring it right in for you. Now, I do recommend changing the packet name. So if you're drafting an offer, I recommend calling it initial offer docs, or if it's a counter offer, counter number 1, whatever you can do to make sure that it's clear what's in each signing packet. So I'm going to label this practice. Okay. Now this is where you select the signing service. Mine is already defaulted to Digital Ink 2.0. And I chose my default in my profile and settings, which you can do as well. There are a few other choices that you can select. I prefer Digital Ink 2.0. If you'd like, you can go through each one, see which one you prefer, and use that. But again, Digital Ink 2.0 is what I use. Now, if you realize, oops, I forgot a document, here's where you can add additional documents. Okay, so I'm going to select next. Now, this is where if you've already added your transaction parties, they're going to show up right here. So I'm going to select John Doe, he's the buyer, and then myself as the listing agent. If there's anyone else, you can create new. And you can select different signing order for each. Let's say I want to sign it first. I am going to put 1, and I'm going to put 2 for John Doe. If you want it to send to both of them at the same time, then they'd both be 1. Make sure that time zone is US Central. If it is not, GMT is, I think, actually the standard, the default setting. So make sure you change your time zone. You can do that again in profile and settings. Okay, so I'm going to go next, and we're going to go no thanks. That's just an ad, and it comes up every time. So just click no thanks, and you're good. Okay, so we're loading. Doesn't normally take this long. Okay, it's probably because I'm recording. So here's my listing contract already filled out. You can see here is either myself as the listing agent from where I'm going to put the fields, or I have John Doe, and I can select his name as well. Be mindful of this, because whoever you are highlighted on, whoever it reads here, when you select drag and drop sign here, it's going to be that person. So in order to then set one for John Doe, you have to have his name selected, and then you can see that one's for John Doe. So I'm actually going to delete these. There's a little trash can button here if you want to delete them. Now, since this is a listing contract, my name has popped up here because I have designated myself and my role as the listing agent. So that's the biggest reason to make sure that you're putting parties in, because you're designating a role for them. If you do that right from the get-go, then Zipforms will know, okay, listing agent always signs here, and then that name will already be in there for you. If you do not put your parties in, which is fine, you just then have to manually put signatures here. And I had selected John Doe as buyer, which is why he's not on this one. Okay, so that is how to add signatures. Now, if you just scroll over each one of these and just hold your mouse over it, it'll tell you what it is. The green ones are optional. So it gives the buyer or the client the choice. They can sign here, or they can choose a different option and not sign. I just recommend using the sign here. If they choose not to sign, then obviously they don't agree with it. And then this blue here, this is optional as well. So this would be an optional checkbox. So I recommend, if you want your client to check a box, then make it a requirement so that they don't miss it, and make it this red one. So use the red ones on here. That will be your best option. This is also just instead of check, if you wanted to do a dot, you can select this one. Now, I recommend not using this T. This T for text allows the buyer to type in text on something. I don't really know when you'd use this. Maybe if you were using the addendum S and you wanted your client to fill out the top part of addendum S, but I believe the addendum S in Zipforms is already set up for them to type into. So I don't know when you'd really need this. This is the date stamp. You definitely need to remember to put this on there. If you were using our previous system, which was .loop would automatically put a date stamp on whenever you put a signature. Zipforms does not. So make sure, and obviously with time is of the essence, it's important we know when people sign things, especially offers, so that we know when they've been accepted and so forth. So just make sure that this timestamp is added to the dates section. I don't even fill in the dates of my contracts at the bottom here. Let's see. I don't even fill in these dates. This is just where I put the date stamp. So when they go in and sign it, then this will be that date, which is what you want. Now, real estate condition report, it's going to look like you can't fill it out. And the reason that it's going to look like that is because I don't have this. My seller is the only one. If I have listed someone as a seller on the transaction parties list, then it will allow only the seller to fill this in. So if you're going to do a test on either the addendum S or the real estate condition report so that you see what your client sees, make sure that you are listing someone as the listing agent. So send it to yourself, the seller. That way it allows you to fill it out. But right now I'm not sending this to any seller, so it's blank. Okay, now the next thing you want to know is markup. Sometimes you're going to need to type on a PDF. So let's say that somebody sent you a counter offer, and the counter offer has that spot down at the bottom that you have to fill out, showing that you had presented it to your buyer and so forth. So what you're going to select is this text box in markup, because this is you adding text, not your client. The drag and drop text box is your client adding text. So we're going to go with markup. And if you just click, after you've selected the T, if you just click on the page where you want to start typing, it'll insert a text box and you can start typing. So that is how to use text. Once you've completed all of the features, anything that you want someone to sign, you are going to select send. And it says finalize signing setup. You just select send invitations, and that will send it to your first person to be signed. Now, if you have set yourself as number one, then you need to go right into your email, sign your documents, and then after you're done, it will send it to the next person. So just don't forget that one step. Let me know if you have any questions. Thanks.